Yeah, let's talk about this further with Marwan Bishara, Al Jazeera senior political analyst. He's in London for us. And Marwan, let's focus on what's been happening at Israel's Sde Teiman prison. That's a military installation, as we said, in the Negev desert in southern Israel, where there have been all of these allegations of severe abuse. One detainee allegedly raped with an iron bar. How difficult is it to shine a light on what's going on inside these specifically military facilities?
Well, certainly getting more and more difficult. And even when it wasn't difficult, it didn't lead to much. As we know from the recent and not so recent history, that whatever investigations or commissions are conducted, nothing much comes out of them. Israel tortures. Israel tortures. Israel has long tortured Palestinians. For over 6 decades, Israel has been torturing, except today, it's kind of a gun off the rails. Now it tortures in mass, and it tortures in a more sadistic and in a more cheap way. There are no more rational reasons for the way it tortures. It tortures now to hurt. It tortures because the torturers are so sadistic, so tribal, so vengeful, so out of order, that they basically can do whatever they want. And as we've seen from the images, they think they can just get away with it without even the appearance of an investigation. Israel was once upon a time a country that kept up the appearances of being a country of institutions, especially the military. It was supposedly a military with a state. But even today, the military has been infiltrated by so many radical fanatics and extremists, including among its high-ranking generals, that it's very difficult with fanatic government and a fanatic military to see any justice served for the Palestinians.
Now, talking about, you suggested a degree of impunity there for the Israeli military. Israeli military police, we know, have detained at least 9 military reservists from that specific camp. They did that on Monday as a result of these allegations. What does that say to you, Marwan, about Israel's ability to police itself at the moment?
Israel cannot police itself. It won't police itself. Not when you have a fanatic government, not when you have a security minister that's already been accused of terrorism, that's already been accused of so much extremism that he wouldn't even be allowed to serve in the Israeli military. When you have that kind of a minister, when you have sovereign ministers in this government that are so fanatics that some of their own parliamentarians in the Knesset yesterday, they were justifying the sodomy and the torture of the most ugly forms against Palestinian prisoners. But this is, while terribly shocking, is hardly surprising. We have a state that's being indicted on genocide. We have Israeli leaders who are pursued or will be pursued by the International Criminal Court. We have a country and a government and a society that is in total violation of international law, according to the International Court of Justice, for its violations every day of those under occupation, of annexing land, of stealing water, of torture. And torture is probably the worst of it because, well, it's not the worst of it, but it's sort of the most, just listening to Noor Odeh, with that report, because you know that all of these things are happening. But as the world continues to talk about, 10 dozen Israeli captives and hostages in Gaza, for every one of those captives and hostages, now there are 100 in Israeli prisons being tortured or being forced into so-called enforced disappearance. What is that? It's kidnapping, for God's sake, kidnapping. Doctors, lawyers, students, young people, old people, spouses, basically any kind of relatives. It's just being rounded up, taken to prison without telling their loved ones where they are, why they're there, and they don't stand trial. And many of them are getting tortured and a few dozens killed. So this is the situation where you have thousands upon thousands of Palestinians kidnapped, hostages held in Israeli prisons, enforced disappearance. No one in the world talks about them. And you have 10 dozen Israelis in Hamas captivity, and we don't stop listening or hearing about them. This is the injustice. This is the asymmetry. It's terrible that there are 10 dozens of Israeli, especially civilians. There's no doubt about that. But tens of thousands of Palestinians, and certainly some of them serving, sentences of what, 10, 20, 30, 40 years in Israeli prisons. Many of them, as I said, tortured. A lot of them not even being on trial, not even facing any charges. This is not a city of law. This is not a country of laws. This is a rogue state.
All right, Marwan, many thanks. Always good to hear your thoughts. Marwan Bishara, Al Jazeera senior political analyst there.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.